Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. All right. Fiona Flyte, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
awesome. I can hear you too. So great to have you on. Okay, guys, so we're doing something a little different today. We're doing more of a guest speaker appearance, taking a break from the crowdfunding, and we're going to talk about Instagram and how artists can utilize Instagram, artists and creatives can utilize Instagram. So let me just introduce you real quick, Fiona. So you are a transformational business coach and a life coach for artists, really. It's so funny how creatives are just so intuitive as well, and I think that's what you bring to your coaching. But you specialize in social media, branding, and online business. And then you've also yourself, you're a singer, actor, performer, been on many, many stages throughout the country, and you love helping independent artists be equipped and to fund themselves, um, be financially free. So I love that we're having this conversation today about how artists can really utilize Instagram and how that can help artists really thrive in a online world right now. It's very online, right? So I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. And you said take a break from the crowdfunding, but as far as I'm concerned, social media is just a beautiful pathway to whatever the campaign is, right?
Yes.
Part of crowdfunding is
Yep.
getting that campaign out into the world, getting more eyeballs, getting more people to
Hmm.
have awareness of it. And of course, social media is our number one, weapon in our arsenal for
Yep.
how do we get more people to see us, to visibility, to see our art, to see the campaign, to donate, to funnel into whatever our offers are, whether it's a crowdfunding campaign or teaching lessons or buying tickets to a show or buying merch or whatever.
Exactly, exactly. Well, and social media is a necessity, really. I mean, in a lot of ways. So I know that there's always we can talk about resistance first. Let's talk about the pain points here. There's always someone that's like, oh, do I have? I mean, the people that I talk to, do I have to post every day? I know I've felt like that. There's a lot of resistance to social media as well. So let's talk about that. What do you see artists and creatives like push back on when it comes to social media in your experience?
I mean, part of it is pushback, and I would say that one of the top concerns is how much time it takes. But I'm going to say
Yeah.
that right now today, I think is going to be I'm going to look it up. It's like day 64 or day 65 of my posting every single day to
Wow.
both social
Congratulations.
media, to both Facebook and Instagram right now. So today,
Yeah.
once I post today, it's going to be day 65, posting a reel to Instagram and a significant, value based caption to Facebook. And
Wow.
I usually post more than once to Facebook because I have systems for how to do that in a really
Yep.
streamlined way. So people are very concerned that it takes too much time, that it's unrealistic. And that is people who don't have systems and who are
Yeah.
struggling. And this is why part of my positioning is as a life coach. They're also struggling with mindset issues. So a lot of the reasons,
Yes.
let's say it takes, here's an example. Social media takes too long. Okay, so how long did you spend on Instagram? Well, I don't spend time on Instagram. Okay, so you didn't open your phone today to look at Instagram? Well, actually, I opened it at breakfast. Is that all? Just at breakfast when you were eating breakfast? Well, actually, when I was, in between dropping off my son and then driving home, I opened it. Oh, is that all? Well, actually, I opened it again, when I was in the bathroom. And
Yeah.
actually, I opened it each time I went to the bathroom. So that was like 3 times. And so when you were on Instagram all of these times, what were you doing? I was scrolling. I was looking at stuff. I was just checking out, and how did that make you feel? Well, actually, I sort of started feeling badly about myself. I was thinking my content wasn't as good. I was thinking, why does she
Hmm.
get to be performing on that stage and I'm not? It's like, okay, so we have to look at what that relationship is to how you spend your time on these apps. I didn't even know that Instagram and Facebook were down this morning until I went into my own community and was getting which I go to daily to support my clients, and heard from all of them like, oh, I had these different feelings come up when Facebook and Instagram were down today. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? I didn't notice because I don't scroll. I go onto social
Mm,
media intentionally to check on my
yeah.
clients and to share meaningful content that I know is going to help people.
Right, be a contributor. Now, I don't want to interrupt this too much because this is great content here, but we're having some complaints that your volume is kind of low. And guys, if you can't hear her, try turning up the volume on your end. But I don't know if you guys can give me some feedback if it's really low on her end and really high on my end. Just maybe let me know in the chat. But I don't know if there's a way that you can turn up
How
your volume or
how is it for you?
I can hear you fine, but we were just having some complaints in our Instagram chat. So, guys, let me know if you can hear Fiona. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, Rob, I'm just gonna give shout outs to people real quick. Michael, what's up? Rob, so good to see you. Billy, Choco Patch Designs, cool. Cool name, by the way. Welcome, welcome. Karen, and then the artist Shy. Oh, the artist hypnotherapist. Good to see you. And then Karen. Shout out to you. I can hear it if I turn it up, but just as much louder.
Ooh, how
Hmm.
is it now?
Well,
I changed some of the
oh,
settings.
you do seem louder. Karen, how is that?
Is this better?
I can hear you much louder.
Okay.
Hopefully, Karen, give us some feedback here because I know you were the one who's saying it wasn't very loud. Guys, by the way, what we're talking about here is social media. Fiona is a artist coach and she helps artists utilize social media so that they can build their brand and become financially free. So, welcome if you're just joining. Let me know, Karen, if you can hear better. Um, let's circle back to what we were talking about, Fiona. So, hopefully, everyone can hear now. Let me know. But we were talking about the mindset of Instagram and
Yes.
like social media becoming I really what I'm hearing you say is becoming a contributor
Yeah.
versus a consumer is that's a mindset shift, especially in our day of microwaves and Instacart, right? Like, how do you become a contributor in our consumer world?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't want to say that you don't show up to support your colleagues and be a fan. I think it's really important to show up and be a fan and to celebrate the artists that you really admire. But it's not about comparing yourself, and it's not about just endless doom scrolling or watching memes and having the attention span of a bunny
A
or whatever.
squirrel.
It's or a squirrel. It's or the dog looking at the squirrel. It's really about understanding and having a purpose for why you're showing up on social media and then following through on that, so that for me, and this is really one of my secrets, I see my social media as an extension of me as an artist. So as an
Yeah,
artist, I am a creative. Like, I identify as
yeah.
creator and as creative, like, to the core of my being. And I think that one of the things that can be so helpful to artists is to make that shift in their mind from social media is somehow separate from my art to social media is
Mm,
an extension of my art. And
yeah,
for me,
that's really
it's
good.
it's an extension of my art, and it's an extension of who I am as a human being. It's an extension of why I'm here on the planet and what it is that I want to do and to give and to be. And so
Your mission.
it's my mission, exactly. And so that's a massive shift from how can I use social media to like get stuff? And this would speak to your word contribution versus how can I use social media to contribute? And the natural extension of making meaningful contributions is that people are more interested in following, that people are more wanting to see, what is like they want to consume your contribution. That's
Right.
a really big, so it's a natural byproduct is that you get that thing that you wanted, but instead of trying to get it, you're receiving it as the result of your contribution.
Yeah. I love that word receiving because obviously, coaching, stepping into coaching crowdfunding, there's a process to become a receiver of generosity and of value, um, for your contribution, is kind of what I'm hearing you say. So talk about that process a little bit. What's that? You said start with mindset. Is it mindset and then something else, or what's the next step?
Well, certainly the number one step is to have a real reason for showing up. And I'm
Yeah.
afraid that I want more fans simply isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, that's good.
Because
That's good.
there's two, most artists have got a lot of imposter syndrome. It's just like, let's just be real. So, and it's a
Yeah.
schizophrenia as far as I'm concerned, because there's the part of you that has the guts to show up and share your music in the first place. Like
Yeah.
that takes a lot of guts to really believe in yourself enough to create the music and to share the music. But then on
Huge.
like at the same time, you've got this competing voice that's like, my music isn't good enough, my ideas aren't good enough, my like I'm not good enough, but here I am doing it anyway. So it's like, wow,
Yeah.
the courage that is required. But what if you just decided that actually it was good enough? Like it is, like what you're doing is amazing. So I take it beyond this question of good enough to just the assumption that what I have to share does matter. And
Yeah.
and that is like very, very important advice to you, that you can make a decision that it's not your job to judge your art like anymore. So you
Yeah.
just take that out of the equation and you're showing up and you're sharing. But then there's this issue that there's strategy involved. And so a lot of artists are like, let me just throw out my, I'm just going to throw up my music. I'm just like I'm going to throw up the music onto the different platforms, but they don't
Yeah.
have strategy around, well, what length is the appropriate for the different platform? How can I get people's attention right at the beginning?
Right.
What can I do when I don't have a new polished music video to keep showing up and stay in front of my fans, so they're not forgetting? Because that's a huge mistake I see artists make. It's like, I have a new release and it's like a fully polished music video and I'm putting it up and it's amazing and I spent $5,000 on it, and here it is,
Yeah.
and nobody watches because you did nothing to warm up your audience or let them know that anything was coming.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
That's good. Yes, it is. It really is. And I was talking to Monique Thomas this morning. I'm going to be on her podcast, and we were talking about that. How we need we need feedback from people. We don't need it as validating our value,
Yes.
but it's not to validate our value. It's to validate the process with us. Like when people are responding, that they want to come on the adventure, right? How do you balance that in social media?
Well, it's like even how you tell a story. So maybe it's an origin
Right.
story about how you got the idea for a particular song that is going to be releasing soon. And you try sharing it one way and it doesn't really land. That doesn't mean that the story is not good. It doesn't mean that the song is, or that people aren't going to be interested in this song. But it can be that you need to work on your storytelling. It can be that
Mm,
the aspect of the story that you brought forward wasn't as compelling to your audience as maybe a different aspect of the story. And so
yeah.
it's like about iterating and practice. It's That's another thing about social media that people just don't seem to get, is that just like it
Yeah.
took you however many years or decades to master your craft as a musician, you got to put
Yeah.
some time and effort into learning strategy of social media, learning content creation, learning marketing, learning how to funnel people to your album or whatever, or your Patreon or your crowdfunding campaign, whatever it is that you want them to do, you
Yep.
actually need to invest time and often money in the study of this aspect. It's like studying the technique of social media, just like you invested money in studying the technique of piano or singing or
Yeah.
audio engineering.
Right. Right. And it's something that can be learned. I think a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, I'm just not a social media person or I'm not a technology person." And I get that there's resistance there. You know, Stephen Pressfield's War of Art book talking about resistance. When you have resistance, it's a good thing. You know, it's okay to have fears and resistance to something new. But don't stay there,
Yeah.
right?
And I highly, highly, highly recommend that book to anyone who has not read it. Like
Yes.
The War of Art. Read it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, see, Karen, I know our Instagram chat box doesn't show up here, but Karen's saying this is so good. I definitely am trying to work on my storytelling skills. So if you guys have questions about storytelling, go ahead and put it in the chat. Fiona is here to answer live, so definitely put it in the chat. What kind of questions you guys have about storytelling?
And
So
social media and branding
and
and
yeah,
any questions that you have, if either Jess or I know the answer, we will answer.
yes, let us know. What are your questions about social media? I know Karen, I'll just fill you in here. I know Karen is working on launching her crowdfund, and so she's working on getting the storytelling for the song that she's launching and promoting the song again. Um, you know, so maybe Karen, if you want to get some tips from Fiona, go ahead and put some questions in the chat. But what would you say to someone? This is actually fun too because I'm releasing a music video
Yes,
and
I
I'm
saw.
stepping
I
in.
was excited. I
I
think I
know.
saw your email come out.
Yeah, and you know, this is so fun because I personally am I've been doing all this brainstorming like, well, am I going to do it from this angle or from that angle or from what are some great questions to ask about the story that could get you started in the storytelling? Like what's the first question, the second question?
Okay. So I'm gonna answer that. But the first thing that I want to say is, like, backing up just storytelling as a whole in this context is the idea that you don't have only one way to tell the same story, particularly if
Mhm.
you're just learning how to you're just practicing storytelling. You're like, this is a new sort of art form to you. You know how to tell stories in
Yeah.
your songs, but you if you're a songwriter, but you don't necessarily know how to tell that story on social media. So the first
Mhm.
thing is to really, like, put on sort of a new mindset that I'm going to try telling the story this way, and then I'm going to see what kind of response I get, and I'm also going to watch it back. I'm going to watch it back as game tape, and I'm going to ask myself, am I interested in this story? Because maybe maybe the, like, the
Mm.
outline of the story is great, but your delivery was kind of boring. Maybe there were too many
Yeah.
ums and verbal pauses, verbal white noise. Maybe you weren't passionate enough. Maybe you talked too fast. There's like a bunch of very, very simple, like a checklist. So I'll give you a checklist of things to go and watch your stories if they're in video form, and really go, okay, how was this? So, speed, tempo. Was
Mm.
it too fast? Was it too slow? Was it, you know, pretty neutral? But did you vary the tempo? So sometimes you spoke a little bit faster when you got passionate, and then you kind of slowed down to let a point really land. This is
Yeah.
part of storytelling. So you just kind of want to look at it as a viewer, or as, like, pretend you're a little kid listening to a story, and then be
Yeah.
honest with yourself. Okay, how is my tempo? So
Yeah.
that's thing number one. Thing number two is what I would call verbal white noise.
Mhm.
So verbal white noise is ums, uhs, ahas, clearing your throat,
Okay.
no, uh, yeah, uh, taking too much time as you're gathering your thoughts, and lean into silence. Lean
Mm.
into giving yourself space to breathe and not feeling like you need to fill that space with a verbal white noise, like a whatever. So those are two really, really important things to look at when you're storytelling. Now, a third thing is to own your story. And what I mean by that
Mm,
is believe that people are interested in your story. Because
mm,
one of the reasons that we speak too fast is like, oh, I've got this really long story and I think I should tell them, so I'm going to tell them really fast in that way. Oh my God, when you speak really fast, it feels to the person in the audience like it's taking longer.
yeah, that's true.
So you really want to own the story like a great storyteller would, and maybe listen to some of the great storytellers. Listen to the people who have
Mm,
got, like, they take their time, and there's a gravitas to their believing in their own worthiness to tell the story. Now, that doesn't mean that you should then sound like Maya Angelou or James Earl Jones. You know, these are, to me, these are voices that are just extraordinary and so
or Morgan
memorable.
Freeman.
Oh my God, Morgan Freeman for sure.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean that you have to sound like them. It doesn't mean that you should like copy them. It just means like look at the way in which they own their right to tell the story in the first place, and then tell it in the and then one last tip just around storytelling, tell your story in the vibe of your actual authentic personality.
yeah,
So if you're like a super bubbly person, then it probably is going to be a little bit on the faster side and maybe a little bit higher pitched. But that's who you are, and people want to see who you are. If you're more serious, if that's like, you know, you are more serious, then you're going to take a little bit more time, and you're going
yeah.
to allow these, you know, truth bombs to land for people.
Mhm.
So find and be authentic to what is your natural storytelling vibe, and just
Yeah,
your vibe in general.
that's great. Um, Karen is just commenting here. I recently realized that storytelling can be different parts of your life and not just one overall arching story, right?
Yes. Okay. So where can you find stories? I could tell a story about here's a story. So one of the things that I have learned about social media that has really transformed my ability to show up on social media comes through my dog, Francois.
Well, good.
Now, Francois was a puppy. Now he's like almost 2 years. He's still very puppy energy. And I take Francois to the dog park. Now, for context, you have to understand that I am an introvert. You may not believe that, but truly in my heart of hearts, I'm an introvert. I love to perform. I love being on camera. I love being on stage, but I'm also shy, and I like to have my space and my time off camera.
Yeah,
Now, when I go to a party, I don't immediately connect with everybody in the room, and I would almost rather be in a corner
sure.
at a party. And social media is a huge party. Like
Yeah.
that is a lot of what it is. It's a really big party with all these different rooms and all these different kinds of people in the different rooms.
Mhm.
Now, when I take Francois to the dog park, when he was just a puppy, and even so today, he immediately bounds into the room. He bounds into the park like, here I am. Is
Uh-huh.
everybody happy to see me?
Uh-huh.
And so one of the things that I learned from Francois about social media is his ability to take up space like everybody wants him there. He just believes as he jumps into the action
Yep.
that everybody is excited to see him there at wherever he goes. Now, another thing that I learned from Francois taking him to the dog parks about social media, really it's about engaging with the world, is that he introduces himself to people. And I
Mm.
watch him introduce himself to this one and to this one and to this one until he finds someone that he vibes with. But when somebody doesn't vibe with him, he doesn't take it personally. He tries again,
Can you
and maybe
imagine
he
a
tries
dog
three
taking it
times.
personally?
And then it's like, okay, that one is, you know, isn't vibing with me. So I'm gonna say, okay, and find someone else. But then he doesn't hold a grudge if they come back later and they reconnect. So this is an example of how I took something that is completely unrelated to anything in my in social media or my business or my branding, that is still an interesting story that everybody can relate to who has dogs
Mm,
or has seen dogs.
right.
And it's like, okay, so no, it does not have to be your life story. It can be something as simple as, this is what I learned about social media from taking my dog to the dog park. Now,
Mm,
let's say your song is about being an introvert, for example, and how part of how this song came to be was taking your dog to the dog park and seeing how social he was, and how, he didn't get his heart broken because somebody wasn't interested in him. And you could tie that into the song, even if that wasn't the genesis of the song. It's
sure.
just, this is a song about heartbreak and getting over heartbreak. And you could tell the same story that I just told about Francois and tie it into that overarching theme of not getting your heart broken when somebody doesn't vibe with you.
Right. And so you'd put this in the caption of the reel. You'd put this maybe like a catchphrase, like you like with your dog, at the dog park, be like, when you don't take rejection, like a sad puppy dog or something
It could
like
be a meme.
like
Yeah, you
different
could
things.
create a meme.
Yeah. Oh, like a meme. Oh yeah. See, that
Yeah.
would be fun.
And you can
Okay.
do a video, a live video where you do storytelling. It's like, you show up and you're like, I have this new song coming out. And you know what I really want to tell you though? I want to tell you about my outing with my dog this morning at the dog park and what it made me realize about this song.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
the
I love
hook
that.
in
I love that. Yeah.
to then tell, because who doesn't want to hear a story about your dog at the dog park? Honestly,
Yeah.
like, that's like, I
Especially
want to tell
dog
you
people.
what I learned from my
I
dog at the dog park that actually really ties into my song. Let me just tell you this
what I
context.
learned about my dog at the dog park about heartbreak. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, Karen, I'd love to know, does that answer your question? Like, it doesn't have to be the overall arching story. So here's what
But
I
that's good too. It's like
you
all
want
of
to tell
these
that
stories
story
have got
too.
the place.
Right. So I'd love to use myself an example because this is perfect timing for me. You know, so my song has been about finding my voice, right? It's like how I tried to be all these people, but then I found my voice finally. I was, myself. And I've been thinking about ways to tie that into things. So my story is that I have dyslexia, and there was a point in my childhood where I believed I was stupid. Like I just wasn't reading, I wasn't getting it like everybody else, so I must be stupid. I've like put a label on myself, right? And I fortunately had a father who stepped in and said, "How dare you say that about yourself? Like, how dare you even say that?" And so I had someone in and speak identity into my life, and that's kind of what this song is about. Is like I have to get quiet. It's called In the Quiet. I had to have a moment of quiet to like receive the truth, and then I could be loud. Like, because I think using your voice, you don't have to be loud all the time, right? You could just do your thing and be successful. You could do your thing and be kind. You could just use your voice in so many ways. So like I've been playing with this idea of in the quiet we can use our voice, and you don't have to be loud about it. Like, but we need the to value ourselves first. So that's my overall arching story. So you're saying that I could tell that story first. Like that's kind of like the first story. Like that's that story. And then I could go, I don't have a dog, but my roommate has a dog. I could you know, like
Or
uh
you could talk about the cat,
oh, I
because
do have, yeah, my
cat,
other roommate has a cat.
cats
So.
are have that quiet stillness about them that we pay attention to.
Mm, yes, I love that. Well, and I see Karen says yes, I think I get stuck on the overall story and don't get more nuance. I think this is fun because I think the overall story is the foundation. Would you agree? Like that's the
Yeah.
foundation.
I mean,
But
it's the
then,
foundation. Yeah.
excuse me. But then with social media, you have this freedom to get nuanced and have fun and relate the story in different ways. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Is this along the lines
Yes,
of what you're saying?
yes, and don't be afraid to repeat the story over and over again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. In a different way.
exactly. So you can share it in the same, like you could share the exact same story but in different formats. So let's say
Yeah.
it's your overarching story. You can do it as a video, you can do it as a long form email, you can do it as a long form caption. Tell the exact same story because we actually want, like, the key to personal branding is your audience can repeat the story for you. Like, you have to
Mm,
actually repeat your story so many times that your audience could tell the story as well as you can. And I think a lot of artists are like, oh, I already told that story, so now that's off the table, I can't tell it again.
that's really
That
good.
Oh my gosh, no, like we want to tell the same story over and over again, maybe not all on the same day. It's like you can
Yes.
reshare the same, let's say you do a video of the story and it came out great. We'll share that and then a week later share it again exactly the same. And
Yeah.
then share it wearing a different shirt and tell it again, and different parts of the story are going to pop out
Ooh, it was a different background.
with a different background. Yeah. Or in a
Yeah.
different location. So
Wow.
you want to absolutely retell that big overarching story many, many times. You can also retell the pieces of the story. So it's like one time you only share the part of the story where your
Yeah.
dad has that conversation with you,
Mm,
and you just shared that one little part of it in a short term form video, or you talk about the whole relationship with your dad. It could be a long video, but it's just all about your dad and your dad's and that one moment. So it's like you could lead up to the moment where he tells you this by sharing some of the earlier relationship. Maybe it was something that, you know, your relationship, you wouldn't have expected him to show up for you so strongly in that moment, or maybe it all built up to where, yes, that's exactly what you would expect
mhm.
from your dad in that moment. So it's like
Mm.
it's milking the details of your life, but not just your personal life, also your daily life. So it's like the daily life. Today I took Francois to the dog park. I did. Like, that's this is it's always on my mind, you know, because I take him to the dog park multiple times a week and I'm always watching him and learning stuff. So that's always content for me. It's always interesting.
Right, right. You can use that as content.
And so there's your things that are just part of who you are on a daily basis, and that makes up your vibe too. And it
Right.
just,
Your
you know,
brand.
the fact that I have a dog is going to make dog lovers and me feel more connected. The fact that
Yeah.
I make nutritious breakfasts every morning, like, that's going to connect with people who either do that also,
Right.
or crave doing that. So there's your daily life from which you can collect daily stories, and then you can tie those daily stories into the big overarching story. There's the big overarching story, there's all the origin pieces of your story that go to create that overarching story.
Right.
It's just, we are stories, like, we,
Yeah,
however
we
many
are.
years you've been alive, there are so many stories. And I think artists think that it has to be so specific, or my life isn't interesting, but it's like the fact that you get up in the morning and we all get up in the morning, this is relatable.
That's very relatable. I mean, I hope so. Karen's saying, and Marupuga, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but welcome. She just joined us on Instagram. If you have any questions about telling stories on social media, definitely feel free to put them in the chat. We're answering Karen's questions. Karen says, I get stuck on that too. I think people will get tired of hearing the same story, but I know that's not true, but my mind gets kind of stuck. Hello from Argentina. Oh, she's hailing in from Argentina. Awesome. Welcome. Um, I love that you just talked about that. Tell the same story in different ways. Us as artists, we're storytellers. At the end of the day, we're telling stories with music, and I'm so passionate to have artists talk about it like with their words. But there's other ways to tell the story besides with your words, like little caption, like those reels with like little captions, and you have all sorts of ways to be telling your story so that you don't get bored, right? Because we don't want it to be the same video every time. Through your product Real Magic,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Real magic is Oh my gosh, it's such a great program because it gives you, it's 200. One of the things that really,
200 ideas.
yes,
Wow.
it's like 200 scripts, prompts, templates, hooks, and ideas. So you never, ever, ever, ever run out of
Yeah.
ideas for creating short form videos. So it works on Reels, it works on TikTok and YouTube
Yeah.
Shorts, Facebook Reels. So you never run out of ideas, because another one of the things that artists complain about is, okay, so there's not enough time to create. There's
Yes.
they don't have any good ideas. They think their ideas aren't good enough, or they don't have
Mm.
ideas, or they're
Yep.
struggling to come up with an idea. And so what Real Magic does is it completely takes away those barriers of it takes too long and I don't have any ideas. All you have to do is you open it up and you're like, okay, that one. And you immediately film the script and it's like you're good to go. Or maybe it's a bad hair day and you're like, actually, I just want an idea that I can implement without having to go on camera. And it's like, okay, here's a B-roll video idea, good to go. You can use the same script but put it over the B-roll and you just write it out.
Hmm.
It is really just such a time saver, this program, Real Magic. And the really amazing thing about it is that because I'm an artist, I'm a singer, actor, musician, I create and music teacher, I created it specifically for performing artists. So every single
Yeah.
example has got a literal example for, so there's the script and then there's an example of how you could implement the script, and it is from the perspective of a musician or a music teacher or an actor. So it's very, very easy for you to conceptualize, okay, how would I fit my own story into this script or this template or this hook? How could I take it from the hook to my idea? Well, I've got
Right.
an example already there for you.
So basically, if you're promoting a music video like me or a song like Karen, you can take the same story, recycle it over and over again with all these hooks and ideas, and I mean, that's valuable in itself. That's
Yeah,
huge. That's huge,
yes,
because you can tell the same story over and over again. You don't have to reinvent the story. Also, you can take clips of your dog and your everyday life and get the ideas from there as well. So, is that accurate? Am I hearing that correctly?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Awesome.
just that there are ideas everywhere, and part of what Real Magic does for you is it trains your brain to, as you're using them, recognize these other ideas out in the
Yeah.
world
So
too.
you're not dependent on it anymore. That's a
Yeah,
good
exactly.
product right there, because you don't want to buy a product that you're dependent on forever and ever.
Yeah.
You want a product that trains your brain, like you said, to be looking out for different things. And reels are not going away anytime soon.
Or short form video.
TikTok
Well, they're
is
just getting
not going
shorter.
away anytime soon. Yeah, they're just getting shorter. TikTok is actually promoting long
I
form.
did. Yeah.
And that. So definitely, I'm going to put the link in the chat if that's something that you are curious about. Definitely click the link in the chat, and
Or comment magic and we'll
comment
send
magic. There we go.
we can DM you the link. Yeah,
That's a
also.
better idea. I
But
like
you
that.
you got to tell them about this special sale just for your audience.
Okay. Well, can you actually share about
Yeah.
that?
Yes, yes,
I'd
yes.
love,
Okay.
because it's your, yeah. Go
So
ahead.
if you go to the website, you're going to see that this program is like crazy how much is included. Like it's a really robust thing. You've got all of the prompts where you can just copy and paste your own ideas. Suddenly you're creating a higher quality of a higher caliber of content, like almost immediately, training your brain to think about creating reels in a whole new way. And you get a full masterclass called Reels Rockstar, all as a bonus. That's all about
Awesome.
promoting your music. And then an additional 50 prompts that are just about how to promote your music very specifically. So it's a really great program overall. Normally, I sell it for $222, which is a phenomenal bargain. But just for this period of time for your audience, Jess, they're getting it for $37.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. Awesome. So I love that you included all the value, because this is huge. Like you said, it is worth way more than 37. And the leads and the fans that you would collect with this product, are going to be huge. So for the next week or so, it's going to be on the market for 37, and only if you know me. So you got to DM me magic, or put magic in the chat below so that I can get you the link. So definitely let me know, put magic in the chat, and we can get you those ideas, and they would be included. So thank you so much, Fiona, for coming on today and talking about storytelling. That was really helpful for me because, again, got a music video coming out. I'm excited about it. It was really, really fun to brainstorm with you. If you have any questions for Fiona, definitely follow her. Can you say your Instagram?
Fiona Flyte, Flyte.
Okay, awesome. And Karen just commented magic. Awesome. Karen wants to know about magic reels, real magic. So we'll get that to you in a second, Karen. Actually, I'm meeting with Karen in about 10 minutes, so this will be perfect. Definitely put magic in the chat if you want more info on real magic, and as well as follow Fiona Flyte on her Instagram. You can
And
see her
Facebook.
reels, and Facebook. You
Yeah.
can see her reels. You can check out her reels. And she's just like such a rock star and shining light when it comes to being a coach, because she's really so committed to the transformation of creatives to go from, the I don't know confusion to very clear in their systems and I'm thinking of the word and strategy when it comes to building social media. So definitely.
Systems, strategy, mindset, and mission.
Oh
So one of
yeah.
the things that makes me unique is I'm not just about strategies and systems, although I am. And I'm not just about mindset and mission, although I
Ooh.
am. There's a bridge between these two,
Yes.
which I believe that's just who I am. I'm about strategy and mission,
Yeah.
the
No,
synergy between the two.
you've got to have both. You can't separate them. So you're just a very well-rounded, holistic coach when it comes to developing those things. So definitely give Fiona a follow. And thank you so much for your time, Fiona.
That was my pleasure, Jess. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Guys, if you have questions about real magic, put magic in the chat and I'll get that to you in the next few minutes. Okay. Bye, everyone.